Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Pipe Wrench, Junk Be Gone, and the Garza Law Firm.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source and the Paper Be Gone studio. We're happy to have you with us. We are going to have a lot of baseball to talk today. We're going to talk umpires. We're going to talk curses. We've even got some mean tweets that you sent. We'll have those up there. Classless versus Catholics. We'll talk about that. We're talking T-shirts. And we'll talk about Friday's game and the stories that came out of that. Saturday's game, the stories that came out of yesterday. Pitching, numbers, in depth. We're going to get you ready for the Tennessee-Notre Dame game coming up today at 1 o'clock for the race to get to Omaha. Let's get into it. First segment of our show brought to you by that group I just mentioned, Paper Be Gone. For years, you have heard me tell you about Junk Be Gone, and I love them. Now, they have a sister company, Paper Be Gone. Same great people doing the operation, same top-notch service. Paper Be Gone, though, what they do, they shred and remove documents for you. Home, office, that's what they take care of. They can dispose of x-rays for hospitals out there, medical offices, buildings. They can even destroy hard drives, which everybody, you want to get rid of a computer, but you don't know, gosh, where's this going to go? They can destroy hard drives as well. Use who I use, Paper Be Gone. I really, really trust Mike Such and his companies, Junk Be Gone and Paper Be Gone, paperbegone.com. All right, let's welcome in some other guys that I trust. Don't know why. Bob Hodge, longtime sports writer right here. Jimmy Himes from 99.1 The Sports Animal. You can hear him every day on Sports Talk from 3 to 7. And right down there, longtime sports writer in this town, Chuck Cavaleris. Three guys who go back to the first year way back in our little office building in Seymour when we started this show. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for being here then, and thanks for being here now. Tennessee plays an Omaha or bust game at 1 o'clock today. Notre Dame won Friday. Vols won Saturday, as you know. So today's game determines who goes to the College World Series. Let's take a look at the pitching. I can't say it's pitching matchup because we're not quite sure who Tennessee's going to go with. But Notre Dame, on their side, Liam Simon, he's 2-0, but he's only made 5 starts on the season. His ERA isn't great, 4.67. His last outing, though, was pretty good against Virginia in the ACC tournament. He worked 5 scoreless innings and struck out 8. For Tennessee, probably I would think it would be Drew Beam, but look at the numbers. He and Chase Burns are pretty much the same guy, and Beam got the SEC Freshman of the Year honors there. My question, I'll start with Chuck, though. That's the pitching. We'll talk about pitching in today's show because Tennessee's runs have gone up a little bit. If Tennessee wins today, is it going to be about pitching or is it going to be about their bats?
I really think it's going to be about pitching because we saw what happened in that first game when Notre Dame was able to hit 4 long balls, and you're down 8-1, and that's your biggest deficit of the season. And to me, pitching, even though you've got the hitting, pitching is what sets this team apart in having potential top draft picks in the MLB draft. If you shut down Notre Dame, you're going to give your offense time to get going. So I'm going to say it's pitching and make them string together hits and score runs that way instead of hitting long balls.
Jimmy, is this going to come down to their pitching or their hitting?
I'm going to go with Chuck. I think it's the pitching, and as he pointed out, Notre Dame had 8 runs in the first 4 innings, had a home run in each of those first 4 innings. Look, Tennessee's had some really good come-from-behind wins, but the closer you get to Omaha, the more pressure there is. If you fall behind 2, 3, 4 runs early in the game, that just adds a little bit more heat on the hitters to try to come through and rally. So I'm going to go pitching. I think the pitchers have to get off to a good start. I also thought it was a benefit for yesterday that Tennessee batted first so they could jump on Notre Dame before Notre Dame could jump on them. But I'm going to go pitching.
And Tennessee will be the home team today. You would think that would be a natural, but they had to win a coin flip to get the home field advantage, even though they're the higher seed playing at home. So goofy that the NCAA does it that way. They should do it just like their other sports where higher seed is the home team.
Exactly.
But anyway, Bob, let me ask you. Tennessee gets Drew Gilbert back. He was out yesterday. They won just fine without him, put up 12 runs. Does that provide a little bit of a spark maybe in terms of we've got our guy back? Do you think the bats are going to swing even more? I don't know that they can swing harder the way that
than they did yesterday
against
their ace, against Notre Dame's best.
Yeah, I don't agree it's coming down to pitching. I think it comes down to hitting because that's the one thing that's always there for them. I've said it, but the fuse is always lit for these guys. So even if you go down 8-1, it's going to be you're going to have a shot in the bottom of the ninth or top of the ninth as it is, because I think the bats are what carry this team even more so than the pitching.
Well, you were down 8-0 and came back 8-6
Right.
on Friday night.
But you lost.
But
You did, but that's
I'm still going to agree with him. I still think it comes down to pitching. But today, yeah, I think it has to provide you a big spark, because if you look at what was being written on Saturday morning, is his career over? Has he played his last baseball game? All of these things, and you had a lot of the negativity coming at you. You had the negativity about him getting tossed. You had the negativity from the fans. Yeah, I think today, when he comes up to bat for the first time, I think that place will explode. And I think when it explodes, I mean,
You
no
better
matter
hope
what
he
sport
doesn't.
You're playing,
Yeah.
whatever sport you're playing, that helps you.
right.
You know, so yeah, I think it is a big deal that he's coming back today.
Let me ask you, we'll go back the other way here. I'll start with you on this one. Obviously, like, huge game. You're going to the College World Series. And if you want to be considered, and they're in this conversation, if you want to be considered one of the greatest teams in baseball history, you probably ought to win the whole thing, but you darn sure better make it to Omaha.
Right.
So I get the importance of that game from that aspect. How important is this game for Tennessee fans' psyche? Because for 20 years now, it has been a case of Lucy moving the football right as Charlie Brown is about to put a foot to it, and Tennessee is Charlie Brown. You saw it in basketball just this past year. You got a top 10 team, belly flops right out of the thing. How big is this game for the fan base's mental makeup to say, okay, this team is actually, it's everything it's cracked up to be, and they delivered?
I think it's actually really, really, really big for a couple of different reasons. One, winning something, getting somewhere, playing for a championship is huge. I also think it's big. Think about it. Typically, for the past however many years, sports for Tennessee ends end of April, early May, because there wasn't any postseason baseball, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Okay, if you go a couple of more weeks, you're right on the heels of the SEC kickoff meetings down
Right.
in Hoover, Alabama. And I mean, I just think it keeps you really involved with UT. I think it keeps you very interested in things. And if you end it here, if you end it short of getting to Omaha and don't have the chance to play for a championship, I think that knocks you down quite a bit, a couple of notches.
Yeah, I do too. I think it kind of comes back to that, and you'll hear this, if not now, when?
Right.
Now, whether
Yeah.
that's fair or not, you could argue. To me, some of this goes back to starting in 2001 when Tennessee had a chance to beat LSU in the football title game, blew it, could have played Miami for the national championship, didn't get there. I think of softball with Monica Abbott. They made 2 World Series appearances with her and couldn't win it. Baseball team last year goes to Omaha, they're 0-2. Basketball team this year wins the men's tournament, and they go out early, John, as you pointed out.
And you had previous
So-
number one in the in the nation, and they go out in the Sweet 16 or
Yes.
32.
You have a chance to win the SEC
Right.
East a
Right,
few
under
years
Butch
ago
Jones,
under
you
Butch
blow
Jones.
that.
Yeah, so I see a lot of those things, and so for the Tennessee fan that follows all the sports, this could really be a blow to say, golly, how could you get this close? You got the number 1 team in the country, and you don't make it to Omaha. So I think it adds a little bit to that.
Chuck, you also, when you look at all of that, you also throw in the fact that part of the reason people are going crazy for baseball, and this is no knock on baseball, but part of the if Tennessee were still number 1 in the nation in football, yes, people would be excited about baseball. It'd be more football talk.
Yes.
Well, it's always football around here. But a lot of the reason people have the reason basketball exploded under Bruce Pearl was in part because Tennessee had just come off its first losing record in forever. The reason baseball is really the focus at the moment, not only because they're good, but because football's been down. If you then put all your chips in, well, at least we've got this, and then that pulls a Tennessee, if you will. What's that do to the brain?
Well, it pretty much fries it. I mean, look at it. You've clearly been the best team. You started 31-1. You've had a historically great season. To fall short of at least getting to Omaha, and then I think that'll take the pressure off. If you don't do great there, it's not crushing. At least we came back and got this. To me, I would say it's the biggest game in Tennessee baseball history. Go win it.
And this baseball team compares to some of these Alabama football teams that didn't win a national championship. You're number 1 all the way through, and then you don't win. Well, why is that not bigger in Alabama? Because you won here and you're going to maybe
Yeah,
going
last
to
year.
win next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
You know, and so that makes it that much bigger, I think, because of what
Yeah,
Jimmy
if
said.
not-
If not
Yeah.
now, when?
Yeah, this is your shot, and you're not Alabama football where,
Yeah.
we got them next year. And you're just not to that point yet. Okay, when we come back, let's go back to Friday night. Umpires out to get Tennessee? Are their antics catching up to them, or was that just you overstepped it? Don't cuss an ump when he's warned you. Let's discuss that. Let's talk about Frank Anderson getting ejected. We've still got a lot more to go. We're going to talk about pitching and the numbers. We're going to talk about the obstacles that Tennessee has moving forward. We'll talk a special mean tweets edition that shocked me from Friday night. T-shirts. You got people bragging about your NIL, and suddenly you don't want them bragging about your NIL. We'll discuss that. Come on back on the Sports Source.